Hey friends, Lisa Mason Ziegler here, and I am just sitting here answering so many questions about Lisianthus that I thought I would just jump on here and answer the questions, and then I'm going to refer everybody to here. I want to start off by saying that those of you that are ASCFG members, Linda Doan did an amazing Lisianthus talk in one of the conferences, which I can't tell you which conference it is. You're going to have to figure it out. That you should go back and watch the replay, which you can find on, if you're a member, on the ASCFG site. And Linda just grows amazing Lisianthus, and she had a lot of great tips. But I am going to first just address all of this, that there's just a lot of confusion. First off, there's a lot of confusion about cool flowers. Cool flowers, or people call cool season hardy annuals cool flowers because that's the name of my book. A cool flower or a cool season hardy annual is a cool season hardy annual no matter where you live. What varies is when you actually plant them. Because I have folks asking things like, well, is it a cool flower where I am? And I think what they're really missing is a lot of people tend to focus on those fall planted cool season hardy annuals for your area. That's just one part of cool flowers. So I want to just clear up a lot of that. And secondly, there's a lot of folks that are very surprised that Lisianthus is a cool season hardy annual cool flowers. Y'all, it's in the book, right? So this is just a really great reminder of why I go back and review books that I have read all the time that are functional books, books that help me in my gardening and farming, and that I learned a lot from, because you just can't believe how much you miss, right? So go back and read the book. First off, let's talk about how do you start Lisianthus. Lisianthus, it is definitely possible to start it from seed, but I will tell you that 95% of all commercial growers buy plugs. And it's just because it takes so long to get a little teeny plant. 12 to 16 weeks. Do you know how many different ways you can kill a seedling in 12 to 16 weeks? A lot. And trying to water them properly, to not overwater or underwater, and to keep the temperature correct is really difficult to do. And those people that are growing them in controlled greenhouses, like plug growers, have it down to a science. And I mean, I have started them from seed, actually for 2 or 3 years back, years and years ago, before I even knew about plugs. And I will tell you that it was terrible 12 weeks. I was constantly, there was some that just were looking puny, weren't looking good. They weren't growing very fast. I mean, you're just constantly second guessing yourself. And guess what, y'all? You have better things to do with your time as a business owner. So Lisianthus seeds also are not inexpensive. When you add the cost of what the seed is and your time, particularly if you're paying to heat a greenhouse to start them, it is definitely beneficial to buy plugs. And what is a plug? A plug is the description of a tray of plants that typically have, we buy often the 285s. That means there's 285 little holes in that tray, and there's 285 plants in there. That's small. They do come larger, but I will tell you, I have never bought anything but 285s, and we do not bump them up. We plant them directly in the field. Even back when I was planting them at the incorrect time, when I wasn't aware that they were a cool season hardy annual, and they did pretty good. Planting into cool conditions is a lot easier to be successful with a plant. Those plants that are cool season hardy annuals that you can do that with, right? So you go to plant brokers to actually purchase plugs, and there's several different. When you become a commercial grower, that's one of the things that we share in our online courses as sources of those types of things. But you buy them from plant brokers. Plant brokers buy from a bunch of different greenhouses. Greenhouse growers do not want to talk to you unless you're ordering like maybe 500 trays of plants. They custom grow. And so, sorry, I'm getting off my, so that's why we buy plugs. Lisianthus is far too important as a cash crop for me to risk starting it from seed. I can remember the last year I did it, I bet I had less than a quarter plants for what I started with. And that's just ridiculous. And they weren't the healthiest. Why not order your plugs, have them show up one day? And yeah, there's bad things that can happen in shipping, but overall, I've only had that happen like one time, and that was actually last year. Obviously, somebody threw the box upside down, but I was able to recover 100% of those plants. So, no, you cannot, I'm not going to say you can't. No, I would not imagine direct seeding Lisianthus. Yes, you can. I have a friend from years ago who's a longtime flower grower who actually that's her jam is seed starting. And she figured out how to create that environment that greenhouses have. And she starts her own Lizzie, but she'll tell you she does it because she loves the challenge of it. Most of us are not looking for more challenges. We just want to grow the plants. And when you plant a healthy plant at the right time in the garden, I mean, they really kind of grow without much intervention from you. So you have to order plants. When you order plugs from a broker, they are having them custom grown for you. You can't call up and say, I need them next week. So if it takes 12 to 16 weeks to grow the plant, you should be ordering them even before that. Dave Dowling has a saying, by Thanksgiving, you should surely have your Lizzies ordered. Well, that's for where he was. We would even have to have them for early spring planting, even earlier than that. So you need to order your Lizzie plugs, I would say 4 months before you actually want to put them in the ground. And even earlier than that would be even better. And if you want to fall plant them, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, you have to order them in early summer, right? You can't just all of a sudden, occasionally a plant brokers will have some available trays where they grew too much, but that just doesn't happen anymore. They only grow pre-ordered stuff. All right, so once you wrap your head around that Lizzie is a cool flower, right? Then they follow the same planting concept that the whole cool flower concept is. Fall planting is 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost date, and very early spring planting is 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring. And if you don't have the book, you need to get it because you need to sit down and study that. And there are so many free resources that I have created and made. Probably 95% of the questions that I answer are already talked about. I understand that it's a very confusing concept for us to wrap our head around, but you just need, especially right now in the middle of summer, need to sit down. It won't even take you a Sunday afternoon to read the book, right? Read the book, watch the book study videos, watch the Cool Season Flower Chronicle videos, then watch my free Cool Flower Refresher webinar, and then do it again. I'm telling y'all, it is so hard to wrap our head around it, but all of a sudden, once it just seems so simple to me now, and it's because I realize this. Is it a Cool Season Hardy Annual? Okay. What is it winter hardy to? This is my zone. What is its zone? If it's winter hardy in my zone or warmer, I can fall plant it. If not, I very early spring plant it. It is that simple, y'all. And once you click that, everything else falls aside. So, I plant everything in the field, so I cannot counsel you or offer you information about growing in hoop houses and greenhouses, but I plant in the field. I have done it for several years, fall planted, and then again very early spring planted, because I was always so terrified to lose my fall planted crop and not have any Lisianthus. And I would plant the same varieties in very early spring and in fall, and we do get little extra blooming time on the same varieties, as well as they get a little taller. However, the reason I no longer fall plant right now, because of how I have squeezed down our production, is you have to have a minimum to order trays in the fall. from the way that we bought them. And I did not need fall planted and very early spring planted. Or if I was in full production, you better believe I would be planting both of those times. So just remember, Lisianthus is no different than any other cool flower. You just follow that cool flower concept of when you plant for your area for whatever the winter hardiness zone of the plant is. And let's just talk about that for a minute. So in cool flowers, the winter hardiness zone for Lisianthus is listed as zone 7. And that's all we had documentation for. The person that actually brought Lisianthus to my attention, that it is a cool flower long before I wrote the book, actually told me that it is definitely winter hardy in more northern zones. But I don't have any concrete information. But they also offered the #1 reason lizzies die over winter, as all cool flowers are super sensitive to, is wet feet. Because where you think you might have good drainage in the growing season is not necessarily the same in the winter. It rains, snows, and ices more often. The ground does not dry out because there's no warm days. So you have to offer excellent drainage to fall planted Lisianthus. So I know that there are people out there growing Lisianthus and fall planting it beyond like zone 6 potentially, or even zone 5. But I can't comment on it because I don't have any firsthand experience with that. But we will never know it until somebody does it, y'all. And then you have to like make some notes and provide information to other people, just like I'm doing for you right now, right? So somebody asked about pinching. Definitely beneficial to pinch. You would not pinch fall. I would not pinch fall. I mean, you could pinch fall, but don't do it till very early spring once they start growing again. Definitely, we've proven when that pinching Lisianthus gives you multiple high-quality stems. My rule of thumb for every pinching job is that we pinch half the crop. That way we really compare it, we really see it, that we get best of both worlds. We get early blooms and early branching. So definitely any branching annual, in my experience, does benefit from pinching. Then somebody asked about reblooming. Lisianthus challenge to get it to rebloom is you have to keep it weeded and fed and watered, because the challenge is that Lisianthus doesn't bush out and create a canopy that shades the surface of the bed. So weeds are really quick, especially in the summer. And if you're going to get a rebloom in September, the plants definitely have the potential. But whether we provide the conditions that they need, keep them weeded, keep them fed, and keep them watered, is the challenge. And that's really easy to think about in April, but when you're facing July and August, when it's hot and a bazillion flowers to cut, that becomes more of a challenge. I no longer rely on mine to rebloom. We pull them out. As soon as they stop blooming long, nice stems, they're out of there. And then somebody is going to ask about overwintering them after they've grown for a season. They will definitely overwinter, but you lose a lot of them to root rot over that second winter. And what then happens is you have designated growing space that has 25% of the lizzies that were growing in that bed, so you have spots all over it. And if you replant more lizzies in there, it just does not work out for maintenance at all. So and Steve and Gretel, and I was interviewing them when we were launching their online course the first year, and you could tell, I asked Steve, so do you overwinter lizzies? And the two of them looked at each other, and it's like, oh my gosh, we have made that mistake so many times. They look so great in the fall. You think I'm leaving them. You spend a lot of time and labor taking care of them, and then so many of them are dead come spring that we have just found. Again, y'all, this is the difference between being a commercial grower and being a hobby or an avid gardener. If I was a gardener, sure, why not try it? But as a commercial grower, space is too premium, and you waste too much of your time, and then you're annoyed with yourself. And it just kind of adds up to having problems. So friends, here's the thing. You can go over to my website, thegardenersworkshop.com, go to the Learning Center, and then go to my Field and Garden podcast/blog. There's categories once you get to that page at the top. Hit Cool Flowers. The first thing to come up is the Cool Season Flower Chronicles, and that is like a clearinghouse of my cool flower resources. You can get the book, you can get the book study, you can request the webinar, and all the videos are right there. And that's what you need to spend time now doing as we're preparing for the fall season. Whether you can fall plant or not, you're going to figure that out. But whether you are or not, we all have to prepare the spots. Even if you can't fall plant or you're not planning on it, you need to prepare the beds for very early spring. So we all have jobs to do this fall. And so check it out. And I also want to say I have a new closed group Facebook group. It's called The Flower Farmer Show. You have to answer the questions, y'all, or you're not going to get in. We're really trying to keep it focused on people that are growing as a business or working towards that. And that kind of goes hand in hand with my show over on Clubhouse. But there's more to come. So you want to be in on that group. And it's just a really fun place to go. And y'all, that's it. So do your homework. I don't mind answering your questions, but most of the questions I'm being asked have already been answered many times over and over again. If you just revisit the Cool Flower book and all of the resources, Lisianthus is in the book, y'all. It's been there the whole time. So I understand completely. Till we meet again, friends. Ciao.